You sent money you couldn't afford to send. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Not the number, the feeling after. After you send the money, after you co-sign, after you say yes one more time. The feeling that is not quite relief, not quite love. The one that asks whether you are helping or whether you are paying to not have a different conversation. They were not the last. 3 people who couldn't stop. And what they found when the money ran out and the conversation was still waiting. There is a specific kind of debt that never appears on a credit report. It does not have an interest rate. It does not have a minimum payment. It has a name, though. Most people know it. Most people have paid it without ever agreeing to. It is called love. Not love as a feeling. Love as a financial decision made in the moment when saying no felt like saying something unforgivable. The wife who moved money in the dark for 19 years. The man who paid the price of having made it out. None of them thought of it as spending. They thought of it as love. They were not wrong. They were just not told the price. Just the facts arriving one at a time. His name was Gerald. 61 years old when I met his story. Retired electrician. 34 years with the same company. The kind of man who arrived early and left late. He had a shop in the garage. Tools on pegboard. Every tool outlined in black marker. His father had done the same thing. Gerald had one son, Marcus. The kind of kid who had ideas. Good ideas, some of them. The kind that sound solid in the telling and dissolve slowly in the doing. 6 weeks before the call, Marcus was 33 years old when Gerald retired. 6 weeks before that, Marcus had seen a guy he went to school with. Not a close friend. Someone he had played football with in the 7th grade. He was coming out of an office building downtown. Jacket and tie. A lanyard around his neck. Moving like someone who had somewhere to be. Marcus watched him from across the street. He had stood there until the guy disappeared through a revolving door. He did not cross the street. He did not say hello. He just stood there. Then he went home and looked up community colleges. He believed it was the door. 3 weeks before that, he had eaten at a food truck parked outside a warehouse, 2 blocks from where he worked. The line went around the corner. The owner was younger than Marcus. He watched him for 20 minutes. I could do this. He had thought that before, about other things. It had not worked before. This felt different. The first time Marcus needed money, Gerald did not hesitate. It was 2009. Marcus was 20. Business administration. The federal loan covered most of it. Not all of it. $4,000 short. Marcus called on a Sunday evening. Gerald was in the garage. The smell of motor oil. The sound of a game coming through the window from inside. Gerald said yes before Marcus finished the sentence. He co-signed for the rest. $11,000 total. He did not think of it as a loan. He thought of it as tuition, the kind of thing a father does. Marcus did not finish the degree. He made it through one semester, then a second. Then the calls from the school stopped coming. Gerald found out not from Marcus, from a letter. He sat with the letter for 3 days before he called his son. Marcus apologized, said it wasn't for him. Gerald said, okay. He did not say what the letter had said, what the balance was. He paid it himself, over 18 months, without telling Marcus. The debt did not announce itself. That was the thing about it. It did not arrive with urgency. It did not knock. It moved the way interest moves, quietly, monthly, without asking permission. Gerald had spent 34 years working with electrical systems. He knew what happened when a small fault went unaddressed. He knew. He just told himself this was different. The second time, Marcus had gotten the job on his own. He had applied. He had shown up. He had gotten it. The first day he took the bus. It left at 5:47 in the morning. He had to transfer twice. He arrived 11 minutes late. The supervisor did not say anything. He noted it. Marcus sat at his station and did the calculation in his head. 5:47 every morning. 2 transfers. 11 minutes late. Or a car. He had 2 weeks of paychecks and credit that was not good enough. He called his father on a Tuesday evening. Nothing expensive, just something reliable. 40 minutes away. Every day. A job that was his. His credit was not good enough to get the loan alone. The second time was 2013. Gerald co-signed again. $8,000. He told himself this one was different. Marcus had a job now. He was showing up. The car was a tool, not a gift. He absorbed the payments without a conversation. He told himself it was easier that way. He just did not know yet what easier was costing him. The payments came out of Marcus's account for 7 months. Then they stopped. Gerald found out the same way he always found out. A letter. His name. The third time was 2016. He had spent 3 weeks driving through neighborhoods, watching landscaping crews work. He had counted the trucks. He had noted the hours. He had priced what they charged against what they likely paid. He had a notebook. he had a client lined up. He had priced the work. He believed the notebook. He showed it to Gerald at the kitchen table. Gerald read it carefully. He asked 3 questions. Marcus had answers for 2 of them. He did not have the cash. He took a personal loan against his truck. $14,000 at 7% interest. He did not tell his wife the full amount. He told her it was a loan. He did not tell her it was his loan. He told himself Marcus would pay him back when the business got going. He told himself that the way you tell yourself something you already know is not true. The business lasted 8 months. The client stopped calling. The equipment sat in Marcus's driveway. Marcus got a job at a hardware store. He did not mention the loan. Gerald kept paying 7% interest every month for 4 years. The 4th time was 2019. Marcus had a new idea. A food truck. He called on a Saturday morning. Gerald was in the garage. Same smell. Same pegboard. Every tool in its place. Marcus knew the smell. He had grown up with it. He knew what it meant when his father was in the garage on a Saturday morning. He called anyway. He heard the excitement in his son's voice, the specific pitch of someone who has convinced themselves this time is different. Marcus talked about the concept. Gerald looked at the notebook, and then he said something Gerald had not expected. He said he wanted to use his grandmother's recipe, the chicken she used to make on Sundays, the one Gerald had grown up eating at a table that had not existed for 30 years. Gerald did not say anything for a moment. Marcus kept talking. Gerald knew that pitch. He had been hearing it for 10 years. But he had not heard that before. Gerald was not listening anymore. He was thinking about a kitchen that no longer existed. A woman who no longer existed. A smell he had not thought about in years. He said yes anyway. He believed the plan because he believed his son, and because somewhere in the middle of a Saturday morning phone call, his mother's chicken had become possible again. He was not sure anymore which one it was, the son or the chicken, the future or the past. He said yes. Gerald retired in 2021, 61 years old. 34 years of work. That evening, he sat down with his retirement account for the first time without a paycheck coming. The number was $112,000. He put the paper down on the table. He did not get up. He sat very still, the way he used to sit when he was waiting for something he could not name. His hands were flat on the table. He noticed them. The knuckles. The calluses. 34 years of work in the skin of his hands. He looked at his hands for a long time. Then he looked at the number again. It should have been more. He knew exactly how much more. He had known for years. He had just never written it down in one place. He got a piece of paper, drawer beside the phone. Same drawer, 30 years. He wrote the numbers down, the cosigns, the loans, the payments, the interest. He added them. The food truck lasted 14 months. It just was not enough. Gerald absorbed the final balance without a conversation. $61,000. He put the pen down. He did not pick it up again. He folded the paper, put it in the drawer, closed it. Not given, not gifted, gone. He retired in 2021, 61 years old. 34 years of work. His company gave him a card, signed by everyone in the office. A dinner. A handshake from the regional manager, who had started 3 years ago and barely knew his name. He drove home alone. He called Marcus that evening. Marcus sounded good. Things were looking up. They talked about the weather, about a game, about nothing. Gerald did not mention the piece of paper. He did not mention the drawer. He did not mention the number. He has not mentioned it since. He sat at the kitchen table for a long time, cup of coffee going cold beside him. The sound of the house settling. Not angry, just very, very quiet. Gerald is still in the house. The tools are still in the same order. The second story starts with a woman who kept a different kind of account. One nobody asked her to keep. Her name was Patricia. Married for 19 years. When the bank called. Not her bank. His. Patricia was an accountant. She had been an accountant for 22 years by the time the call came. She understood numbers the way some people understand weather. Not just the facts of them, the pressure systems, the way something small could become something that changed everything if you did not watch it. She had understood this about other people's money for decades. Dennis had opened a credit card the year before. Dennis had opened the card in October. He remembered the day it arrived. A small envelope. His name on it. He had held it for a moment before opening it. He had grown up in a house where his mother checked prices before she put things in the cart, where his father counted the change after every transaction, where the word enough was the highest praise money could receive. The card had a limit, $2,000. He had looked at that number and felt something he did not have a name for. The specific feeling of someone who has just been told they are allowed to stop counting. Just for a while. Just a little. He believed that. Every month he believed it. Minimum payments missed. Balance grown. Interest compounding. The balance was $4,200. She had found the first statement. Not in the mail. In the glove compartment of his car. She had been looking for the registration. Her hand found paper. Patricia found the statement. That was the thing. He could have thrown it away. He did not throw it away. Not hidden, just not dealt with. He had not thrown it away. He had put it somewhere. She used the car. Not hidden, not shown. Somewhere in between. The specific distance of someone who cannot ask for help, but cannot stop. Leaving it where it can be found. She sat in his car in the driveway for 6 minutes. Then she went inside and paid it. She did not say anything. She told herself she was protecting him from the embarrassment. She was. She was also protecting herself from having to watch him look at something with that expression she had first seen on their third date. She told herself she would bring it up when the time was right. She is still waiting for that time. The second year of the marriage, Dennis had surprised her. A weekend away. He had planned every detail. He had saved for 3 months without telling her. She had not known he could do that. She had not known he could want something enough to save for it. She had looked at him differently that weekend. She was still looking for that man. 22 years later. Every time she transferred the money, she was still looking. And because of a weekend from 20 years ago, every statement, every transfer, they are still married. She had known Des was not good with money. By their third date, they had gone to dinner, a place he chose, a place slightly too expensive. He ordered without looking at the prices. She noticed. She did not say anything. When the bill came, he looked at it with an expression she had to look away from. She named that expression later. Fear. Not of the amount, of what the amount revealed. That he had ordered what he could not afford, because affording things was not how Dennis related to money. Dennis related to money the way some people relate to water. Not afraid of drowning, afraid of what the surface showed about what was underneath. They got married in 2001, October. Patricia had looked at the numbers and said no to the venue they wanted. Dennis did not know why. That was the first time She made a financial decision for both of them without explaining it. The first time she covered an account, it was small. An overdraft. $240. She found it on a Tuesday morning while she was reconciling their joint account. A charge she did not recognize. She sat at her desk and looked at the number for a long time. Then she transferred the money from her personal savings. She did not tell Dennis. She told herself it was easier than having the conversation. The second time was larger. Patricia was making dinner. Chicken. Something simple. The children were in the other room. The light outside was the color of something ending. That specific amber that happens in autumn, in the hour before dark. She answered on the second ring. The bank called on a Thursday. October. The same month they had gotten married. She noticed this. The woman on the phone was professional, careful with her words. The account was 90 days past due. Patricia asked for the account number. She did not recognize it. She asked for the balance. She wrote it on the notepad beside the phone. Clearly, correctly, without reaction. $11,340. She thanked the woman and hung up. She turned off the stove. Her legs just stopped. She sat down on the kitchen floor. Not dramatically. She still had the phone in one hand, a coffee in the other. She sat with her coffee on the kitchen floor and looked at the clock above the stove. She counted the minutes. 1, 2, 3, 11. Then she got up, turned the stove back on, finished making dinner. She waited until the children were in bed. Then she sat across from Dennis at the kitchen table and put the notepad between them. He looked at the number. He made the face. He cried. He apologized. He said he did not know how it had gotten this far. He said he had meant to tell her. He said he had been handling it. Patricia looked at him for a long time. She believed him. That was the part she could not explain to people later. After everything she knew about numbers, after 19 years of moving money in the dark, after 11 minutes on the kitchen floor, she believed him. And she covered it anyway. One last time. She told herself. This continued for 11 years. It did not feel like 11 years. It felt like individual Tuesdays, individual overdrafts, individual decisions. Every month, a little more. without asking, without announcing, without hurrying. It had all the time it needed. Patricia kept a mental account, not written down anywhere. She was an accountant. She knew better than to write it down. Writing it down would have made it a document. So she carried it. The way you carry something you have decided is better carried than examined. By year 7, she had stopped counting precisely. Not because the transfers stopped, because she had discovered something about herself that she did not know how to face. That she was better at carrying debt than having conversations. That the money was easier to move than the words were to say. She estimated recently that she has covered somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000. She arrived at that number on a Sunday afternoon while Dennis was watching a game. She had a piece of paper. She had written the years down one by one, the amounts she remembered, the amounts she had tried to forget. She sat at the kitchen table the way Gerald had sat at his kitchen table, the way people sit when they have just written something down that they cannot unwrite. She looked at the number, $60,000 to $70,000. She was an accountant. She knew what $60,000 invested over 22 years would have become. She did not write that number down. She folded the paper, put it in the recycling. Not the drawer, the recycling. She was not Gerald. She knew better than to keep it. She sat at the table for a while longer. The game was still on in the other room. She could hear Dennis, the specific sound of someone completely unaware of what had just been calculated at the kitchen table. She did not go in. She sat until the feeling became something she could carry. Then she made dinner. Patricia is still making dinner. The light outside still changes color at the same time every evening. The third story starts 800 miles away with a man and a wire transfer every month for 11 years. His name was Raymond, 34 years old when he finally did the calculation. He had been avoiding it for approximately 11 years. Not because he did not know the calculation was there, because he knew exactly what it would say. The first wire transfer was in 2013. Raymond was 23. He had just started his second job out of college, junior analyst at a mid-size firm. Decent salary, nothing extraordinary, but more than anyone in his family had ever made at 23. He had been at the job for 6 weeks when his mother called. It was a Tuesday evening. He was making dinner in his apartment, a small place, furniture from a second-hand store, nothing on the walls yet. His mother's voice was the specific voice she used when she needed something. She had not called immediately. She had looked at the bill for 3 days. She had moved it from the counter to the drawer, from the drawer back to the counter. She had tried to think of another way. There was no other way. She called her son, not asking, not quite asking. The voice that existed in the space between a statement and a request. The car needed work. The mechanic had looked at it. $800.
Raymond said yes, before she finished the sentence. He transferred the money that night. He felt good about it. The specific warmth of being the person who could help. He had waited his whole life to be that person. Raymond grew up in a house where money was not discussed, because there was never enough of it to be worth discussing. The rent was always close. The utilities were sometimes not paid in the month they were due. The refrigerator ran, but it did not always run full. His father worked 2 jobs, days at a warehouse, evenings at a service station. Raymond used to wait up for him on Friday nights. The sound of the car in the driveway at 11:15. The specific exhaustion in the way the door closed. His mother cleaned houses on weekends. 3 houses on Saturday, 1 on Sunday if she was needed. She came home smelling of other people's cleaning products. Raymond noticed everything. He was that kind of child, the kind who watches and files. He was the first person in his family to go to college. He was also the first person to leave. This is not the same thing. Going to college means you come back on holidays. You call on Sundays. You belong to 2 places at once. Leaving means the distance becomes its own kind of relationship, one with its own obligations. The transfers continued. Not every month at first. 3 times in 2013, 5 in 2014, 7 in 2015. By 2016, it was every month. Sometimes 800, sometimes 4, sometimes 12. The reasons changed. The car again, a medical bill his father had ignored until it became a collection notice, his brother's rent when his brother lost a job, his niece's school supplies, his mother's glasses, a deposit on a new apartment when the landlord raised the rent. The amount changed, the reason changed, the timing changed. That question never changed, because it was never asked. Raymond St. Paul was asked. Sometimes before it was asked, he had learned to read the particular silence before his mother called. The way she would text twice in one day about unrelated things. He had learned to wire the money before the question arrived. She never asked if he could afford it. Not once. In 11 years. Not because anyone demanded it, because the need had found its shape. The specific shape of Raymond's yes. And need, once it finds a shape, does not change. It just arrives. Patient as a bill,
reliable as interest, waiting for the yes it already knew was coming. He had waited for it. In the beginning, he had thought it would come. It did not come. After a while, he stopped waiting. He had found out by accident. He was 24. Home for Thanksgiving. Going through a drawer, looking for tape. He found an envelope, his name on it, his handwriting. A letter he had written from his first year at college. He had complained in that letter about money, about not having enough, about considering coming home. He did not remember writing it. Under it was a bank statement, his mother's account. The month he wrote that letter, the balance was $11. The following week, she had sent him $300. He had never known. He put the envelope back, closed the drawer, did not say anything at dinner. He has not been able to say no since. He told himself this was family. He told himself this was what you do when you are the one who made it. He did not ask himself what making it meant, if this is what it cost. He already knew the answer. He was not ready to live with it. He was 34 when his financial advisor asked him a question no one had ever asked him before. Her name was Sandra. She looked at his accounts, his income, his expenses. Then she asked him what his net worth was. Raymond said he was not sure. She turned the screen toward him. It was not what it should have been, not for someone his age. His income, his years of working. She asked him about the regular transfers. Then she asked him if he had ever calculated the total. He said no. She said he might want to. Sandra did not say this was the reason the number was what it was. She did not have to. He went home that evening and sat at his kitchen table. The apartment was nicer now. Furniture he had chosen. Things on the walls. He opened the spreadsheet. 2013, 2014, 2015. He typed slowly, month by month, transfer by transfer. He did not rush. There wasn't point rushing. The number was going to be what it was going to be. He did not get up once. He did not drink the water he had poured before sitting down. He sat very still. He sat in the same position for 2 hours. At one point he realized his jaw was clenched. He unclenched it. A few minutes later it was clenched again. He stopped trying to fix it. He looked at the total. $105,600. He did not move. He just looked at it, the way you look at something you already knew but had never said out loud. Then he opened another tab. He typed in the number. $105,000. Invested at 7%, starting 11 years ago. He did not need to see the result. He already knew. He looked at it anyway. $322,000. He closed the tab. He did not close the laptop. He sat with the screen dark in front of him. The apartment was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a car passed. He thought about the drawer, the envelope, the bank statement. $11, $300 sent. 322,000 not built. Not with anger, with a specific kind of grief that does not have a name in any language he knew. The grief of someone who gave what they could not afford to people who needed it and who would do it again. Not because he had not learned, because the alternative was a version of himself he did not want to be. The person who had made it and stopped looking back. He did not want to be that person. He just wished someone had told him earlier that there was a cost to not being that person. There is a concept that financial researchers call the cost of emotional obligation. It does not appear in textbooks under that name. It appears in retirement accounts that should be larger than they are, in emergency funds that were spent on someone else's emergency, in investment portfolios that never started because the money was always needed somewhere else first. The number is not small. The research is specific. Adult children who support parents or siblings transfer an average of $400 to $800 per month over a decade. That is between $48,000 and $96,000. Not invested, not compounded, transferred. A delay with a price. This is not an argument for not helping the people you love. This is an argument for understanding what the help costs in numbers. At 7% annual return over 10 years, $48,000 becomes $94,000. $96,000 becomes $188,000. Because the people in these stories did not fail to love their families. They failed to look at what love was asking them to become. There is a difference between not knowing the price and knowing it and paying it anyway. Because looking at the price would have meant looking at something else. The person they were paying for. and what that person was, and what they had needed them to be, and the distance between those two things. Gerald gave what he needed for retirement. Patricia gave what she needed for safety. Raymond gave what he needed for the future he had worked 11 years to build. None of them regret the love. All of them are still calculating the cost. The question is not whether to help. The question is whether the help is sustainable, whether it has a limit, whether that limit has been said out loud to yourself, if not to them. Gerald still has the tools in the same order. He talks to Marcus every Sunday. They talk about the weather, about games, about everything except the $61,000 that sits between them. He does not know if Marcus knows the number. He has decided it does not matter. He has enough. Not what he planned, what he chose. Every time he picked up the phone, every time he said yes, he chose this. He just never called it a choice. Patricia does the finances now. Both accounts. Every bill. Every transfer. Dennis does not ask to see them. She does not offer. They have found a way to be in the same house with what they know about each other. The price is just different for each of them. Raymond called his mother last month. She asked if he could send something. He said yes. He always says yes. He sent $300. Not $800. $300. For the first time in 11 years, he sent less than was asked. His mother said thank you. Nothing else. Raymond sat with his phone for a long time after. He does not know yet if that was a beginning or an ending. He is still deciding. This is what the money costs. When the money's love. The thing you were paying to not see. And the moment when the count runs out and the thing is still there, waiting.